City Hall right after that.
Leave somebody else's name on the other side.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Funny.
No, I could not, I thought I may still be able to find Amanda's old one somewhere.
Well, and I think it was, background was a different color on the others.
Oh,
wasn't
was it?
She probably has her
Was
own
that bronzy color, you know?
It may have been. I'm not sure.
Not
Jordan,
enough the
Jordan
word,
ordered those for me, so.
they look nice. I don't think our names were as big either.
Brendan, just let us know when you're ready to roll.
We good? All right. Well, I'll call this, June 11th, 2024 meeting, regular meeting of Bryant Parks Committee to order. Appreciate y'all being here. And, first thing we have on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from last week's, or last month's meeting. You see them there attached to your agenda. Anybody have any comments, about them, or do you want to offer a motion that we accept them?
I make a motion to accept.
Do I hear a second?
I second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Association and club reports. Jeff Hall's with us tonight to give us an update, I guess, on the activities of Central Arkansas, Soccer Club. Jeff, good to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Turn it over to you.
Okay. I've just built a little report here. I'll just go through it. So our soccer club, we're a 501c3, and our mission statement is, we are an organization committed to providing a safe environment that promotes a guided discovery of critical thinking and soccer skills for the youth in our community. So we like, having kids out there exploring their sport, and we just kind of give them training opportunities, and we want them to create critical thinking skills. And soccer allows that with the creativity that the sport provides. So, and a safe environment, I mean, us being able to be at Midland is great. I mean, we love that. We're very proud to be partners with Bryant Parks. So, we have 3 levels of programming that we offer. We have a U5 through U8 program called Academy. We have a U9 through U19, our recreational program. And then we have a classic program for U11 through U19. And that's basically a competitive environment for, you could call it travel soccer. With Academy kids, we introduce them to soccer. It's a 6-week program in the fall and in the spring. We bring them in, let them have fun, and then we send them home, and they kind of have a taste. They want to come back, it's an in and out thing. So it's it's an academy style pool where we just we'll train like 2 teams together, and we just make it fun for them. Of course, recreational soccer is what you would think. It's like leagues, we were talking about league baseball earlier. It's kind of the league soccer. It's an in-house program, but they do play out teams outside of the club. So we're in the Central Arkansas League, so they'll play teams from around the area. Then our classic teams, they will play it in a statewide league, so they play more of a, they get more competition. We'll play teams from Fayetteville to Texarkana to Jonesboro, and then we'll also travel out of state, to like Memphis, Shreveport, Springfield, Tulsa. You know, we'll send the teams out of state to compete against other soccer clubs. So we have 2 seasons, a fall and a spring. Our numbers in the fall, we had 745 members, 745 kids in the fall. That's actually up 20% from 2021. So we've grown 20% over the past 2 years. And we are, like you know firsthand, we're busting at the seams at Midland. In fact, we use Bishop. We send a couple teams to Bishop weekly to practice out here. And just a few highlights from the fall, we had a state cup champion, our U17 boys. They were Arkansas state champions. They're actually leaving tomorrow to go to Plano to compete in the regional championships. So they'll be representing our state and our club in Texas. Our U19 boys and our U16 girls were runner-up in the state cup. And then we had a couple teams win, we had a team win the Jackson tournament and a team win the Oxford, Mississippi tournament. So we're a small club compared to other clubs in our state, but we do really well as far as competing against other clubs. And then something we also do in the fall that's really cool is we have an annual Pink Out Night where it's in October, and we have all the kids in the club wear pink, just kind of recognize breast cancer awareness, and they love doing that. So our spring numbers, spring is traditionally lower because we have other sports competing with us, but we had 692 kids for spring soccer. Again, that's up 22% from the spring of 2022. That 20% range, again, several teams did well. One of our rec teams, our U9 boys, they won first place in the league. We had a team win state cup for U14 boys. And then we had several, I think the pictures are up there. We had several do well in tournaments. Memphis, Tulsa, and Jackson, we had placings in those tournaments. So club's been around since '94. It was formerly Bryant Soccer Club, and then we changed our name, I would say around 2016, we changed our name to Central Arkansas Soccer Club just to kind of help bring in other non-Bryant people, just because we had a lot of Benton people, a lot of Box Flat people, and a lot of Little Rock people, Hot Springs. So we were just trying to be more kind of inclusive with the name. So, but it's just exclusively a youth club. We're not a corporate club. We don't, we're a nonprofit, so we're not, I'm not paid. I'm a volunteer. So it's really a program for our youth. And we try to put everything back either into Midland or into equipment or honestly into training them and getting them licensed. Soccer is the only sport that I know of where you have to be licensed to coach at a certain level. So like our classic team, starting at U13, you have to have a D license. And that costs money and sometimes travel to go get those licenses. So our club sponsor is Everett Buick GMC, and the reason I bring that up is because they provide us the opportunity to award scholarships. We awarded close to $10,000 in scholarships this year for kids who needed financial assistance to play soccer. Soccer is, some people in our culture would see soccer as a kind of an elite sport, kind of like a status sport, but again, we make it affordable and we want everybody give them the opportunity to play. So we also applied discounts to registration. So every club member got either a 15 or 25, I think it was $15 or $20 discount, depending on the program they were in. So we were able to apply almost $9,500 in discounts for registration fees. So again, we're kind of helping knock off some of the costs. And then they also helped us upgrade our equipment. We were able to purchase around $5,000 in equipment for the club, goals, nets, pug goals, pennies, you name it, everything we need to run a program. So, so we were with with our programming, we actually introduced a new program last year. We called it the Little Strikers program. It was a U4 program for 3-year-olds, basically. So what we did is we purchased an inflatable pitch. Basically, it outlines that's our inflatable pitch. And we were like, hey, let's just see if we can get some 3-year-olds to come out for an hour on a Saturday. And we had like 16 or 20 sign up, and they loved it. So we're going to do that again next year. We did it this spring, and basically it's just a real. We don't practice those kids, but they just show up on Saturday because a lot of their older siblings are at Academy, so we run it with Academy. So if the younger kids, we'll just put them in the inflatable and let the older kids play Academy. And it's worked out really well. We do have some other ideas for the inflatable pitch. We talked about maybe taking it to like elementary schools, during the year. One of our board members is a PE coach at one of the elementary schools, so we might try to do that some. And then we also implemented a training program for our more advanced kids. This is something that Rising does, Little Rock Rangers. So our kids who are more advanced, they are going elsewhere to get training in the off season. So in order to keep them from getting poached or plucked from other clubs, we offered a elite training program this winter to say, hey, look, we actually have the coaches and the expertise. Let's put it to use. And so after season, we had, I think it was 26 or 28 kids want to continue training in the off season because they're getting it elsewhere. We might as well provide it for them instead of letting them go somewhere else. So, and that was great to do with Parks because we need the fields to rest, but we also need the fields to train. So we have to kind of balance that. So, and then you see the expansion here. That's really something that we're looking forward to. Right now we have 4 pads. We get asked all the time, why don't you host tournaments? Like our concessions man, he's like, we need tournaments. And I say, well, it'd be great if we had more fields, and parking. So hopefully maybe with the expansion, we can host maybe a small tournament. Ideally, if you're going to host a U9 to U19 tournament, you need 12 pads. I say 12 because that's just kind of the hold from outside, just to have all the field space and all the ability to dice up all the ages. But and then with the expansion, we would look at probably growing our staff. And although we pride ourselves in being a community club, we might have to actually bring on people and have more. We don't have any full-time or even part-time staff. I mean, it's just we make it work somehow. But we have a great board, and I've got their names here if anybody is interested in seeing who's on our board. But and then the other thing I wanted to bring up was we're trying to get a potential partnership with Summerwood Sports. You guys are familiar with them, I'm sure. The Hendricks family, they're investing in recreational, sports and heavy on basketball and volleyball, but we're trying to get them to invest in a soccer/baseball facility. I think the playing surface would serve both sports very well on an indoor setting. And so, in fact, I don't know if I'm just going to go and tell you, but they have purchased the land south of Midland. So the 2 tracks between Midland and Highway 5, they purchased those. So I don't know what that means. I don't know if that means soccer and indoor there, but that's what we want to like to think, right? So, so we're working on that. Obviously the expansion, and then I mentioned earlier we were founded in 1994, so we're going to have a 30-year anniversary celebration this fall. Basically, just kind of a block party atmosphere type thing at Midland. Food trucks, skills competition, small-sided games. Just kind of a community event, just to kind of celebrate 30 years of soccer. And yeah, that's what I got. So, any questions or any comments?
Yeah, I got a question. How much is the registration soccer?
So it depends on the program. So Academy is $140. So Rec is $160. So now the rec you have to buy a uniform kit, which is gonna run you around $80 or $100, $120, depending on what you want. So our classic program, it's if you are U11 through U14, if you're basically 6th grade through 8th grade, maybe it's 5th grade, but before high school, you can play 2 seasons of club. You can play fall and spring, and it's $600. There are other clubs that charge, and they add coaches' fees on top of it. So we feel like we're very affordable. If you're a high school kid and you want to play club soccer, it's $300 because you just get 1 season. So you play in the fall, and then you can play high school in the spring. And that we don't charge you to play. We don't charge you the full $600 if you're a high school kid, because we know that more than likely you're going to want to play high school. And a lot of our club kids do play high school, so we can't offer anything for the kids. And there's not many, but if you want to play club and opt out of high school, we can't help you anyway, because most of our kids are going to play high school. But yeah, that's our fees, $140, $160, and $600 or $300 if you are a high school kid. So. And those, I think those have been our fees for at least 2 or 3 years now. So.
I do a lot on volunteerism. Everything's volunteer.
It is.
Sounds like, I mean,
yeah,
we do a lot.
We do. So the way we get coaches, if they get coaches, the way we kind of incentivize coaches is we'll voucher their kid. Like we'll say, if you coach, we'll voucher your kid. Some teams do pay their coaches out of their own pockets, just to, I mean, this is kind of what youth sports is evolving into, right? But as far as the point, I mean, we are volunteer based, and now we will compensate a few positions on the board because, you know, they don't have voting rights, so we'll compensate them with some, you know, pay, but it's not anything to shout about, but yeah, we are heavily relying on volunteers, and it's kind of like, I'm sure you've seen it in baseball, but you know, especially soccer, like having coaches and parents, there's not many parents who can coach soccer. So we, in fact, we have two coaches that don't have a kid in the club, and they're just there to coach. So we're probably going to have to start investing in more of that over the years, especially if we expand. And that's kind of the discussion we're having right now with our DOC, our director of coaching, is how do we recruit and attract coaches to the small non-corporate club? Because, you know, most soccer coaches are going to coach, they want to get paid. You know, that's kind of what soccer is known for, is I got my license, I want to get paid. Well, for a small club like us, we can't, you know, pay a lot of money. But anyway, is having the right coaches. And there are some coaches that coach more than one team and make it work.
Yeah, 20% growth and that's a lot.
20%, yeah, it really is. And I didn't know it was that much until I started putting this together. I mean, we kind of felt it, right? But we never really.
Yeah, I was gonna just add to that. So 20%, which since 22 is
2021, 22. Yeah.
So since 2019, which would have been before you were in your role there, they've actually grown by 41% since 2019. So, you know, a lot of sports saw that coming back out of COVID, like everyone wanted to play. And so that boom from there, I mean, so you're talking about 40. So we talked last month about basketball and how much we've grown, which basketball was 46%, but soccer's right behind it. I mean, by far they're growing at, you know, alarmingly the same rate that we're talking about with basketball. And, you know, a couple of years ago, the soccer club, you know, donated $50,000 that we could put with some A&P money and then some city savings to add lights to those other two paths, which has helped tremendously on what they're able to do. But like you said, they're already out of space again, and so we're we're providing space at the back of Bishop and the multi-purpose paths back there, but there are no lights on those either. And so, you know, we're still just trying to find ways to, you know, squeeze it in and make it work. And so it's good problems to have, but yeah, I mean, they're also growing to a point that the field space is tight. So, and, but yeah, we're appreciative to have them and the great job that they do, for soccer here in the community. And as a former high school soccer coach, I can say that was by far the best one to coach because parents knew they didn't know anything about that. Yeah, like, no parents, and I didn't know anything about soccer either. And so, and no parents got on me about,
They didn't know.
yeah.
I got one more question, and I plan on asking all the people that Keith gets. Minus space, what is one thing that you feel like you're lacking of getting from the city over there?
From parks, from the city. I mean, the service is incredible. I mean, Matt and his team do a great job. I mean, if we ask for anything, you guys might get to it the same day. I mean, it's that high level of service. So, I mean, if we had 8 or 12 pads, you know, that would solve our space issue. But I mean, I can't think of anything from a park standpoint. I mean,
Good. Need the people to go out and vote for.
I mean, yeah. I mean, we're pretty I mean, I don't know what we did before Midland. In fact, I don't even know if I was around. I mean, were you around before that?
No clue.
I mean, where were we? I mean, Collegeville. I know we used Collegeville.
Collegeville was used quite a bit. They used it for soccer and we played
That's
some
where when my
flag
girl was
football out
little.
there.
When we first
Yeah.
started, we were at Collegeville, but
Yeah.
Midland opened in 07, I think, or 08 maybe. We didn't start till 12, so Midland was already in the work. We're already using Midland for the older programming. So, no, the support's great and communication's great, and we don't have any. We need some lights out here, but
Right. I'm gonna say you could say you've reached out to me about it. So go ahead.
Let's get maybe some lights at Bishop, you know. But again, the
Yeah,
power
lights.
supply.
That's space, really, yeah.
I mean,
Here we go.
now, we're trying to get Collegeville back. They have an MOU with the Wolves right now, but, we're trying to get it back, hope to get it. 'Cause that would help our space issues if we can get Collegeville, so.
Thank you. Good report. Keith, you got a director's report for us?
Yeah, director's report, I do have the summary here for May, like we did last month. I also want to add to that, and also touching on what the Central Arkansas Soccer does with scholarships. That was brought up last month as well. I had a really good meeting with Impact One since our last meeting, and so the next step there, they're very interested in working with us as well as far as a partnership to look at potential financial aid opportunities for our programming. And so the next thing we have is just kind of getting with Joy in the finance department and seeing how that'll look. But I hope to have something for you guys in the next couple of months as far as being able to look at opportunities like that for our programming as well. And also, it's on here, you know, we talked about it last month, the dedication of the lacrosse field. Lacrosse, Adam and Salt County Lacrosse are looking at putting like a concessions building out there. Obviously, we demoed that old building that was there before. He's looking at something a little bit more, I don't want to say, it's not temporary. I mean, it'll be a permanent building, but kind of taking a Connex box and making it look really nice and kind of turn it into a concessions type window. We're currently working on that. I'm going to introduce Colton a little bit later, but you know, Colton handles the code and things like that for the city. So we're working on some of that. Once I probably will have something next month for y'all as far as an actual action item of what Lacrosse is willing to put out there to get your guys' blessing for that as well. So, but I wanted to update y'all on that because that's kind of just started in the last week or so. As far as this past year, I think they did a tent and a cooler there and served concessions. So they're looking for something, as lacrosse is growing, they're looking for something that's a little bit, more permanent than just a tent setup and everything there, so.
They'll just do it in-house, I mean, they're not trying to
Yeah,
contract
no,
out.
they would run all that in-house, probably as a little bit of a fundraiser for them, yeah. And we wouldn't, I mean, we outsource and make a profit off of the concession stands here, baseball, softball, basketball, because those are the ones that are actually profitable. You know, Central Arkansas Soccer, they handle, we for a while kind of was like, okay, we'll be responsible for providing concessions. It without tournaments, it's not profitable. There's a reason his concessionaire is saying you need to bring in tournaments. Without league night here is not profitable for concessions. The tournaments are what makes it profitable. And so, so we do outsource these to a business that runs the concessions. Swim, the Barracudas, it's a fundraiser for them. We let them do that because we tried it. It's not enough traffic there to actually be profitable. And it would be the same with lacrosse. For them, volunteer based, they can, like the schools, they can make a little bit of money because their labor's free. So I assume they still make parents probably go and work.
Yeah, I've done it.
Yeah.
I still gotta do it.
That, yeah.
We have one person that's like the
I like
overseer
it,
of all
yeah.
of it. Yeah. But now, we used to work the baseball.
Oh,
When
yeah.
my boys were playing,
But when I started here in
each team was a five.
when I started here in 2016 and met with all the groups, the first thing they said was, hey, do you want concessions? And every group was quick to give concessions to the city.
Yeah,
So just a couple of things. I'm not gonna go through it all, just to highlight, the staff orientation in service out at Mills Pool. D&T actually, I don't know if y'all have seen it on any of the We Are Bryant or the, social media stuff. They did a really cool video for that. So if you get a chance, check that out. And then I've added too, we now have a software that tracks the amount of traffic that we have in the parks with these different events. And so as you see some of these events, that's where I can now put in, you know, the number of people or visitors and things like that and where they came from. So that's why I've kind of added to that as well. I do have, I'll give a chance for questions. The last item on here, 2D Sports, that's a typo on my part. That's baseball, not basketball. That last tournament on Memorial Day weekend, I didn't notice it till today that I put basketball instead of baseball there. But I do have more that I want to highlight. But I'll let y'all ask any questions that you may have before we get to that last one.
Something that, you know, now that we can get numbers for these tournaments, I think that's really good information to have. Is there any kind of conversion formula out there, what the economic impact is when you have a tournament like this on the community?
Yes, there is. I've done it for years in-house. Basically, I stole information from a lot of people smarter than me, but yeah, I've read a lot of studies and kind of created my own calculator that could, you know, convert over number of people and what that economic impact would be. So there are opportunities to do that. It costs unless you want someone to, like me, to do it internally. But yes, I mean, it's all gonna be an estimate. So yes, I mean, I can get some estimates on that. And so, Cody mentioned as far as different groups coming, and I'm working on a calendar for that, for different groups to come like Jeff did this month. Next month, I'm actually going to present, July's Parks and Recreation Month. And so, I want to just kind of give a report of the department. And so I will, that every year anyway, as far as the economic impact, I will include that in mine as well, as far as an estimate of how that would go. So, and this helps too, because before I was Matt, who I'll introduce here in just a second too. He's from around here. Treat's from around here. So it would be a thing, like I would look up which teams came to this tournament and say, where's that from? Is that far enough that they stay in the hotel, or is that far enough that they, because it calculated that. Well, now with this, I can see exactly how many came from this far away or whatever. So it would make it easier to do that.
Doesn't the software also allow you to show where they left and went to?
Yes.
So that's pretty cool too, to see, did they go to Chili's or did they go to the Hilton Inn, or, or where'd they go when they left here?
I can tell you.
Right or left.
Yes, did they turn right or left?
They turn left, I can tell you. But I can tell you, there are a lot more that are making longer drives home than we anticipated. I mean, there's, I think that, I had kind of, and so I had kind of said like, oh, if it's over an hour away, they're probably staying. No, there's a lot of people driving way further home than that. If there's any other questions, I really want to highlight this last tournament that we held.
This is stuck out just the first bit. You said 14 new lifeguards. That's full-time, part-time?
So those are, we certified those. Kristen Robinson, the aquatic superintendent, she also trains and certifies lifeguards. So we actually only hired 3 of these.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so a lot of those were Little Rock.
Certified.
Yes, because I don't think Little Rock has anyone that can certify life.
Okay.
So a lot of times other cities will send lifeguards here. And so, yeah, the majority of those I think are, and I think there may be a couple Benton, but yeah, so.
Okay.
But those would be 3 part-times that we hired. Yeah. So, I invited Matt here tonight. He can answer any questions you may have over this, but I really just wanted to highlight the job that our grounds crew has done. I know that the reputation for this park is that it floods and it's wet. And when I started here in 2016, it was consistent that people like to take shots and make fun and say, oh, well, it's going to rain, so Bryant can't play. And, I want to give a ton of credit to Matt. Matt's 2018, is that what you got? Yeah, so Matt's been here since 2018. And I can tell you that as far as natural surfaces, non-turf complexes, I'm usually very careful about my words. We are better than the others are at this point. As far as handling the water, as far as handling, as far as our crew and how they take care of tournament directors, I get nothing but compliments from these directors that come into our park. Obviously, it's not just baseball and softball. You heard soccer talk about the quality of grounds crew that we have. But it has been multiple times this year that our closest neighbors that are natural services are Burns Park and Benton. And we saw multiple times this year that rains came through and those parks did not play, and we played. And Jeff, he doesn't say he's soccer, but he's got kids that play.
I don't want to take your time, but I'll jump in when you.
Yeah. So, but we played, and that's what I want to highlight. I don't know if y'all remember, but Memorial Day weekend, it rained really, really hard that Thursday and Friday leading up. And when the sun came up that Saturday morning, our park was underwater that morning. Jason called me and said, hey, there's nowhere we're playing. Can we go to the lake? Yes. And I said, sorry, Jason. I said, you may want to hold off. I mean, Kevin, who's been with us, works for Matt, has been with us for 19 years now. At 4:30 that morning, he called and said, I can't get in the park. The roads are closed. And we played baseball that weekend, and we started at noon that day. At 6 a.m., the parks and the fields were underwater, and 6 hours later, they played baseball. And so that's incredible. And so I want to highlight that. Also, before we move on, I got a video that I want Brendan to play. This actually, in fairness, this was done last year, but I just want to show this as well. Yeah, so, like I said, that, we actually got that video last year. We had the same situation, except for it flooded Friday morning. And we called DNT and said, hey, can y'all come out and like get some footage? I think we have an opportunity here. One, obviously I wasn't overconfident. I was confident that we were gonna be able to play, and this was gonna be a chance to really highlight, our department. And then, they went one further this year because, that was 24 hours to get it ready, and this year they had, and I said 6, the water didn't really leave the field till probably 8 a.m. So, to be playing at noon, it just, really highlights the incredible job that they've done, in building these fields, but also the crew that we have in maintaining and taking care of them. And I talked to, parks people around the state, and I was talking to someone about a week ago that is with a very prominent city in Arkansas, that they have turf fields, but he said that it's well known now that Bryant has the best natural services in the state. And so that's something to really be proud of, and I wanted to give Matt an opportunity. I know he's probably a little bit uncomfortable in that position, but highlight the job that they've done. So yes,
We have teams from around the state that want to play at Midland. They want to play league games there because they either can't play at their place because they're not getting maintained, or they're underwater, or and we get comments all the time about how nice Midland is. We're out there doing our thing, and we have visitors. This is, they're very impressed when they come. So we have a really nice soccer venue here, and other than space, the quality rivals Burns Park. I'm confident in saying that. We played at Burns. So yeah, I agree with all that.
I'll second what you just said. There's probably not a park most parks in Arkansas, I think I've seen baseball parks, and these parks out here have come so far in the last 3 or 4 years. And even, a lot of times when you hear about teams that are going to go to an end of season tournament in Destin or, Shores or somewhere, you go down there thinking, wow, these must be just, they're not anywhere near what we have here. And what you've done in the last years has just been phenomenal from where we've been. People are taking notice.
Thank you. Yep. That's it for me.
All right, I don't think we have any members of the public back in behind me, so we'll move on to old business. Update on the subcommittee we appointed last month on the,
How did you get to that?
basketball. Subcommittee update.
After our last meeting, Cody was appointed chair after that.
Yeah, we had a meeting last Monday, and, I got voluntold that, I'm gonna be chair of the subcommittee, and we're gonna meet the first Tuesday of the month, of every month. And it's me, Lynn, and Amanda,
Good job.
so
Good job.
Renee will be in there pretty soon.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
We'll find one for
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of work to do. So, that's all I have on that one.
All right, Colton, you got some information on the master.
Oh, that's.
Nope,
that's
nope,
jump.
hold on. We're on number 5.
Cover for Mills Park pool.
Yeah, bring these for a reason. Sorry to scare you, Colton. Cover for Mills Park.
Yeah, so, we talked about this, obviously we did the job to replaster, Mills Pool a couple of months ago. I do have a quote, for, cover. It actually came in less than what we had expected. Install and everything is $12,125.65 to be exact. We have been working because this is something that we would need multiple quotes on. We have been working to get other quotes. At this time, we haven't. It's hard. For these pool companies, this is a tough time to get them to quote something that's a few months out. Kristen is working on that. I can do, if it's, in order to purchase it, I'll have to have competitive quotes anyways. I would be shocked if we get one that is better than this one. If we do, obviously we can, I can bring it back next month and do that. Or if y'all just want me to wait until I get other quotes, that's fine, but.
What's lead time on that, did they say?
I mean, if we did it right now, we would have, I don't think they're concerned with being able to come in, because even though the pool closes at Labor Day, we don't really have to get it covered until we get into like cold temperatures or anything like that. So we would have a little bit of time. Obviously for looking at for this fall, they have no concerns about coming down. And this is actually, they're based, they're not local. I know that. I think they're out in Missouri. But this is the company that we just used for our new lane ropes. And everything was really good there with that. But we have, like I said, we've reached out to a few of the others that we normally work with as well. And the only reason I say I'll be surprised we get something lower is we had talked to them in previous years and it was going to be higher than this. So that's where I feel like this is probably going to be the best quote we get, but in order to purchase it, I do have to get a couple, at least one more.
Is that 12,000 for them to
Install
and everything?
Yeah.
And then how much every year will it be roughly, do you know, for somebody to come in?
I think we would probably.
Are we gonna do it?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I think we would handle it after that. I mean, there's obviously going to be some labor cost to us doing it after that, but there was a labor cost before going out there and cleaning the pool.
Right. I mean, the labor costs will be so much cheaper.
Yes.
Doing that, putting the cover on, then cleaning it every time.
Yep.
So.
How many years are we expecting to get out of the cover?
It was only warranted for 1 year, but I think they expect usually like 8 to 10 on these is what they were saying. But I do think the warranty was only 1. Now, it may be that some of the other companies give a longer warranty, but if it's a lot more money, I don't know that that's.
So it seems to me what you're saying is it doesn't need to be really, we're not in any really rough.
No,
right now
I
because
mean,
we have some time
if
to get it
if
off.
you wanted to wait until I had a chance to get other quotes,
Yeah, I mean, you have to get the 2 or 3 quotes,
Mhm.
because council's gonna make you do that.
So, yes, I mean, waiting and me bringing this back in July with a couple other quotes is not going to, we're not gonna miss this or anything.
I would like to wait, in my opinion.
I'm fine with that as well. Yeah, I'm confident we've given ourselves some.
But I would like to go off and us make a decision in July.
Yeah.
For it, that way we can at least start getting, I don't know what the lead time is, and then we still have to get on their books to come down here to install it.
Yeah, that's not, I mean, we can definitely do that. If I don't have other quotes by July, I'll be maybe concerned then. We can look at some other ways around that point, so.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on to new business and, talk a little bit about, sponsorship and advertising. Keith and I have had some discussion about that. We're, gonna look at not only our current sponsorship and advertising opportunities, and there's a distinction to be made between those two, by the way. But we feel like there's a lot of opportunity here, especially in this community right now, where people want to be involved in the city, and we've got so much support for our sports programs. And anybody in the marketing business will tell you that we're leaving some money on the table, some revenue on the table here, where people want to come where people are. A lot of times sponsorships are charitable donations, but the numbers that we're bringing here, as Keith just talked about, these are really attractive numbers for people that want to get eyeballs or want to get in front of all these eyeballs. So we've talked about putting together at least the outlines of a plan initially of what we're trying to do. We don't want this to become looking like just, Sign-O-Matic out here. But there's places out here where you could place advertising. We've talked about especially a little bit over, we're seeing some of it in Mills Park right now. We've got some nice stanchions over there and at the Bark Park as well. But we think there's just lots of opportunities to generate some serious revenue and create opportunities for people that want to not only support the parks, but want access to the people that come here. Now, as we've talked about, now that we have the software, you know, we can show what we can deliver. So, you want to say anything more about that?
No, I mean, I think that Richard kind of covered it. It's something that has, I feel like organically just kind of come up a lot here, lately. I will say, as far as the transition into this role as director, I was surprised at how much time I was spending not trying to necessarily sell sponsorships, although some of that, but also trying to figure out exactly, well, what is this worth? What is, you know, I'm saying that, like, that's not my background. I'm not a marketing person or a salesman or anything like that. Not that we have to be at some point, but as far as trying to figure out, oh, well, how much would we charge for that? And how, yes,
This much.
or different, or what opportunities are out here. And I'll just use Bishop since we're sitting here and everything, but, you know, how would we sell that? I mean, I think a common thing that people bring up, oh, well, you can put signs across the outfield fence. Well, but we have 15 outfield fences here. So, like, how do you do, like, what's the breakdown of that? So there's just a lot of moving parts with that. And so I had even mentioned to Richard, like, I'm not one that's too proud to admit when it's something that I need help with, that is something that, you know, whether it's the Parks Committee or whether we look outside and find someone who actually, like, this is what they do or something. But I do agree. I think there are opportunities here. But I think putting a plan together and figuring those things out, you know, when someone reaches out to me for an advertising or sponsorship, we have a few vacancies that are like our rooms, those media rooms upstairs. They currently have no sponsors. A few years ago, you know, Chris, Cassie, it was decided, okay, this is how much we're going to charge for these. They're still sitting there vacant. So, like, those are easy to sell. Hey, this is how much it is. We already have a plan. But whenever it's someone asking about, you know, they want to be out at Alcoa Park, or they want to be, you know, at the tennis pickleball complex or something like that, it's like, well, we don't currently have a structure for that. And so it would be, in some ways, me going, this is how much I think that should be. So yeah, anything like that as far as, you know, opportunities or things that we can maybe do to put some structure with that as well.
Well, and I think to Jeff's point, the reason I was so interested in the increase, the 20% increase, you know, sometimes you set a price for something, and then 5 years later, it's the same price, and they've got, you know, 60% more people in there. Well, we need to adjust that. And, you know, that's how they set rates for other advertising venues. And we're just kind of thinking this through, how we can best do this without it looking like a, you know, mismatch of you know, the worst looking quilts you ever saw. You know, so that we have some standards for what the signs look like, how they're going to be put up, what the sizes are, and
Who's gonna take care of the signs?
that's part of that's a good question, because part of that goes into who constructs the sign and how durable are they, and how often are they replaced, and you build that into the cost of the advertising.
And I can tell you right now that it is in the agreements that we currently have, we take on all costs of signage. I mean, we put the signs up, we hope they last a long time, but if something happens to a sign, we replace the sign. You know, here, Everett is an anchor sponsor, and Everett changed their logo a year ago. Now, it's minimal, but their logo is different. And so, you know, when they came and said, hey, our logo is different now, we need that signage updated. There's a lot of Everett signage in this park.
Mm-hmm.
And so I will say, one of the things, and in the contract, it's on us for the signage. So we are currently, and I don't want to get into too many details because nothing is official yet, but, you know, Everett's been very willing to work with us on trying to assist with some of that cost, because they realize that they're on every school board. That's a lot of money. We have replaced some of it. They've kind of been lenient on some of it as funds come in to replace others and help with some of that payment. And also looking at signing an extension so that we're not spending all this money and then in a year they go, all right, actually we're good. So, so that at least there's some long-term on that. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things like that I feel like, probably need to be kind of cleaned up and something consistent. And I don't expect this to be a quick fix or anything. I think that's something that, that we can kind of work on a plan and come through. But I do know it's a lot easier if you have something that is really concrete and a plan there that every person doesn't try to negotiate you down as well, because I think when it's just kind of figuring it out as you go, you're not getting the most as you could for that as well. And so, obviously funding has been a hot topic and an issue, and I think this is an opportunity where we can, do that and also provide investment for some people in the community here in the park as well, local businesses, so.
And one way that you could do this, and it's not a recommendation by any stretch, but we've talked about this in general terms. You mentioned maybe as somebody from the outside. If you have somebody that knows how to do this kind of thing, come in and do an inventory or an audit of inventory where you could put things working within certain parameters, they take it over on a contract basis with some clear expectations of how it's going to be done. They're incented because they get a percentage of whatever they sell. And so that's their job. So that's a concept in just broad terms that would take it off of Keith and his crew, except just to oversee, make sure we're meeting the contractual things and whatnot. So, as Keith said, his expertise is in running parks. This takes kind of special, you can't just go out here and do this, or else it does look like a patchwork quilt at some point.
I mean, I think to go off, a starter would be maybe self-sponsorship as a whole field. Like, I don't know what the field names are. Instead of having like
There's, A1, A2.
A1, A2, you could sell sponsorship as, this is the
Everett Field.
Everett Field, or, Larry's Pizza Field, or Baxley Penfield. I mean, I don't know, all the way around.
That's a good example of the difference between sponsorship and advertising. Advertising is typically sign, and that is sponsorship of a place. It's kind of like,
Well, I just think if you do sell advertisement for a field, like Keith said, it's gonna be like hodgepodge. Ashley Park was that way when I was growing up, and it looked pretty SHITTY after a while on there.
We gotta have some, you're exactly right, but I think there's opportunity to sell certain spaces within the field. Just as an example, if you've got a field and it's named and maybe it's on the scoreboard, there may be some opportunity on the back of a dugout. Smaller, wouldn't cost anywhere near the sponsorship, but it still have a visual appeal. And again, all of this is subject to further discussion to kind of work this out. But I think Keith and I have talked about, we're leaving a lot on the table, I think, out there, but we want to do it right. Kind of like a few years back, we spent a long time figuring out what kind of signs we were going to put at the entrance to our parks. Well, we took a long time, but you know what? They look pretty good. They look classy, they look consistent.
And I've heard people say that too.
Yeah.
So,
If you had a package where you could say, these are our parks.
Right.
Here's how each park is laid out for sponsorship opportunity. I think it would be a park by park.
Sure.
Kind of tailor it to, like Midland, for example. You could do 4 fields at Midland. This is the Bryant Family Pharmacy Field. This is et cetera, et cetera. So, but, we wouldn't have as many opportunities at Midland, but they would be there.
But knowing the numbers out there, having this software, you can tell an advertiser, you may not have the quantity, but you got the quality of who you're advertising to or who you're going to reach, and that might appeal to certain places of business based on what they're in. So we want those people.
I think Chris and we kind of talked about that several years ago. Chris, at some point, trying to do field sponsorships at Midland.
Yeah.
And I think it was the same thing there. I don't mean to speak for Chris, but I think it was the same thing there too. It was like, you get caught up in having to do something that's actually partial, you know, like, so it's like, oh, I'd love to do that, but whenever I get a chance to get to it, to go out there and try to knock on doors and sell a sponsorship and stuff like that too. So it's just difficult. And one of the things that, you know, I compared it to as far as if there is someone out there that this is what they do, or like, that's what we do with concessions. Like, we outsource that for a reason. We don't have the staff to do that. And so, you know, I do think that there are some opportunities with people that, can do that, and they can do that well. And so, just, you know, as we were kind of talking through it, we wanted to bring that to the entire committee's, attention. So
At this point, it's all concept.
yeah.
You know, there's a lot of, we'd want input from all sides, and, but I think it's something that we need to think through. I mean, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit out there, I think.
So the appeal of outsourcing it would be they have case studies of what's worked, what's not worked. You don't have to reinvent the wheel there. And I think that maximizes opportunities versus
They would know what this is worth here versus what Midland is worth.
Yeah.
doing it.
Yeah, so I can ask parks around us that are like us, like, hey, how are y'all sponsorships? How much
Right,
do
yeah,
y'all charge
kinda
for
get
it?
a-
How do you do?
Yeah.
And I
feel
know
of
that
it.
we're in there. I mean, it's, you know, it honestly, it never brings in as much as you feel like it probably should, especially as much traffic as we have here.
Mhm.
And I'm thinking about really the four anchors that are everywhere, whichever it is one of them. But I guess they're also sharing with three others. It's not like they have exclusivity on anything, you know, so, but, and those are ones that are kind of like, we have like hard set, this is what you get, this is what it costs. But, you know, just, yeah, I mean, there's just other things come up, and obviously the tennis pickleball is new, but it's like, it's there. People are like, oh, hey, can I sponsor that? Oh, well, we don't actually have anything set up. Let me think about what that should be.
Well, then one thing that Keith came across that made sense to me was he was talking about, you know, say you do dugouts, right? Okay, you got 15 fields here, that's 30 dugouts. Say you set that at $2,000. Just throw a number out there. Well, the first person that comes in is going to say, I want this field and this field, which is the entrance of the softball complex. And Keith was like, well, maybe those that's prime real estate.
Right.
That should be, you know, double what the ones in the back that, you know, or maybe those should be
But it's near the
cheaper.
basket.
Right. So, and I was like, I would have thought just in terms of, you know, like set price, whereas you know, something like that came up and it was
Women, I mean.
interesting. I was like, because the first person he talked to said, yeah, I want this one and this one. I was like, oh, of course, you know.
Well, we don't know what these
I want
spaces
the one by the
work.
basket.
Yeah.
You know, we kind of arbitrarily, as far as I know, just kind of, well, how about this much?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
right. No,
somebody
And
that
you may
knows,
be way overpriced or way under.
or way
You never
under
know.
it. You know, if you sign a 5-year contract at this amount,
It's high
you
to
may get, you know, you may be able to buy it at that price for the entire 5 years, whereas you just buy 1 year, you may be subject to,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
I don't know what the spaces are out here, much less what they're worth. You know, we gotta think all that through, but.
But I do agree. I think the software of knowing the numbers changes that too, where someone that does that can probably figure that out pretty well, so.
And the BAA is already grabbing some of the more expensive or inexpensive ways to advertise. I think it's $100 to put your name on a jersey, and it's a pretty low
And
cost. So
That's another problem is we don't have a lot of businesses here, and we're already like you just said, going to the businesses, $100 here for name on a jersey and such. So
Well, and I
it's
think
just
that,
a lot of the businesses and the buying, and we're all fighting for the same piece of real estate right there. Yeah.
well, and I think that, I'm glad y'all brought that up, because I will say, like I said, I don't want to speak for him, but Chris said that for years when people would push to like, hey, we need to sell more. Well, like, listen, the BAA is doing it, soccer club's doing it, you know. But I do think that goes back to, we're not necessarily asking for a handout. Like, we now can show that this is benefiting
Here's how
your
many
business.
people.
Yeah, and so, and I think that that's how we have to look at this. In reality,
they have budget
you know, you're supporting the kids when you put your name on a jersey, but like, with the amount, I mean, we're gonna end up showing this year over 500,000 visitors to Bishop Park. I mean, I can, from looking at the numbers already, I mean, that's what we're gonna, so, I mean,
Yeah.
I think we can show that, hey, we're providing something here as well. We're not just asking for you to, you know, to do something it is beneficial for the parks, but it's also gonna be beneficial to the businesses as well. So, so I do think it is different than that, and we have to kind of think about that, yeah. So, but yes, you're right, that, hey, I mean, you brought up Bryant Family Pharmacy. John gets hit for everything. I mean, John, he does.
The
like,
full, every
yeah.
little thing, and
Yeah, John sponsors 2 different things with us. Yeah, so like, and so, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of these businesses, Everett does. I mean, they get hit for, you know, so a lot of these businesses that get hit all the time, but I think that's where it's on us to try to show them how we can benefit them as well, so.
They also have budgets for this.
Yeah, that's my point.
I mean,
They've already
That's
planned that out.
advertising.
The team sponsorship is more or less of mom or dad who owns a business saying, well, I can do that. Like, offering to do it almost, instead of asking them to do, you know. And it's a partnership. I think that's the key word you want to use here with your potential targets is it's a partnership. Like, well, this is something we can provide you, like, here's the numbers, and so.
We are moving from seeking a philanthropic donation to, you know, seeking an investment.
Sure, you can call it in.
That's a fundamental difference.
Yeah.
We have the data now to back that up. I think we can leverage that. All right, now, cool.
So
Is
I'll,
that a subcommittee, what you're talking about?
maybe
No,
next time, let's get to it.
I
Real
think it
quick,
needs to be.
I just want to introduce,
Renee?
Colton. He is our, interim community development director for the city of Bryant. One of the things from the master plan that we saw was, trails were very popular in the survey. And so, so far with, city of Bryant, we've multi-use trails. They've been one of two things. They've either been along a street like Bryant Parkway, or they've been in a park like Mills Trail or what we just did at Alcoa. Colton's going to kind of just give an introduction of the master transportation plan and highlight that. But I just wanted to bring you guys in because, you know, trails being so important to parks, you know, I asked him if he would come and kind of include Parks Committee and parks in this, because I know that this has been more planning and streets up to this point, but as we move forward, we want parks to be much more involved in this plan, so.
Like he said, he asked me to kind of come over and give a little presentation on this, kind of give you an update of what's going on. And I'll try to, it's not a very long presentation, but I'll just kind of give a brief overview of everything for you guys. So originally, the Walk by Drive Master Transportation Plan was put into effect in 2017. There's kind of two parts to it. There's the street plan, and then there's the bike pedestrian plan. The reason they were done together was so that they would work together as far as being more cohesive, where you had trails that were alongside roads, you had those that kind of split off, you had bike routes, bike lanes, and you know, it makes a lot of sense to throw all that together in one larger plan where that all kind of works to benefit each other. And there were a lot of goals of that plan when it was developed. I listed a few up there that I wanted to point out. So one of the bigger goals was to establish and maintain a multimodal transportation network for the planning area. So prior to this plan, the city didn't have any kind of multimodal plan for our planning area, which is just outside of our city limits up to a mile, for those of y'all who don't know exactly where that's at. But another one is to ensure transportation facilities safely accommodate all potential users, including pedestrians, bicyclists. You know, the plan was designed around more readily accommodating pedestrians and casual and less confident bike riders. You know, there's a lot of emphasis placed on the bike and pedestrian facilities that were separate from the roadways to make users feel more confident in their abilities to, you know, ride on those or, you know, walk or run, jog, that sort of thing. Another one was to provide and maintain bike and pedestrian facilities that meet the needs of a variety of different users. It kind of ties into that as well. Allow equitable methods of financing transportation facilities. So we'll kind of touch on that a little bit more here in a few minutes. Another one was to ensure an adequate transportation system for the future generations.
Something random was popping up there for a minute. Yeah.
Sorry, I was doing this and different over here too. So, ensuring an adequate transportation system for future generations. So if you look at our trail plan map, there's a lot of trails and connections on the plan that seem like they will never occur, or they won't be really feasible. And it's important to remember that a lot of these connections were shown on the plan, and put in place with the long-term planning in mind. So maybe a number of years for a lot of those were actually designed and built, constructed out. This map I have over here is actually kind of an updated version of the original map that's in the plan. And I kind of have some extra colored lines I drew on there showing places where those trails have been built, in recent years, as well as places where there's trails under design or engineering, and then also places where their trail is planned to be built by development, in the near future. So all those are kind of shown on there in different colors, and I've added a little extra legend up there at the top, kind of point those out a little bit. This plan was drafted in 2017. The pedestrian bike facilities in Bryant were pretty limited. So in 2017, we had 2.7 miles of trails and 1.8 miles of bike lanes. But in 2024, we have now approximately 7.4 miles of trails, 3 miles of bike lanes, and then we have an additional 8.2 miles of trails under engineering and design. So that's a pretty significant jump there, pretty exciting. And then, you know, some people might wonder what that, where we rank among other cities, and I actually pulled this graph from our Master Parks plan, showing where we are at 7 miles versus Benton and Maumelle at 3, Sherwood at 1. Of course, Hot Springs is up there with almost 26 miles, and then Bentonville, Russellville, Bella Vista, all those kind of more Northwest Arkansas and River Valley area where there's a pretty high emphasis on trails and biking. So maybe one day. As Keith said, there is a push for increased bike and pedestrian facilities in Bryant. You know, through those studies that were performed in the pedestrian plan, we saw that the residents really want trails and connectivity. They were ranked third highest at 70.8% of all survey participants, and that was really behind restrooms as number 1 priority and playgrounds as number 2. So really, I feel like that's a pretty big amenity there that a lot of people want. And then also in response to the survey, as far as the top priorities for Bryant Parks, promote physical activity and wellness are in the highest rating with 78.39% of all participants, rating it as important or very important. So there were a lot of policies that were also adopted as part of the plan, but a few of those that were notable to mention include the bike and pedestrian users will be constructed, uses should be, they'll be constructed as part of all new development and transportation facilities according to the provisions of this plan. And as part of developing the bike pedestrian transportation system, the city will take into account the mobility and safety needs of a variety of uses, including children, seniors, active adults, and the physically challenged. Proposed subdivisions and large-scale site plans or concept plans must comply with this plan. However, the Planning Commission may consider on a case-by-case basis innovative designs that promote desirable developments without sacrificing the overall plans or goals of the plan of a walk-bike drive. So currently, for the building of bike and pedestrian facilities, it's done in kind of 2 ways there. All right, I'm trying to go back and forth between both these computers and stuff. But they're done in two ways. So there's constructed by developers, and then there's, constructed by the city. So bike and pedestrian facilities, when a developer comes in for a new development, you know, if that line on the map crosses that property, they're required to build that section of trail, that, where it abuts, or do the half-street improvements for that section of land. The other way is through the city. So the city, using existing funds or through grants, we're able to build additional trails. And I know the old plan has that were listed for the building of these facilities, but it was kind of varied. Some of the options they listed in that plan included city property taxes, sales tax, general revenue, and street fund revenue, and then grants, of course. But a couple of weeks ago, the Planning Commission actually held a workshop to discuss and look at finding new possible solutions to constructing and funding the trail system. So we invited the city council, as well as developers that had developed in Bryant, and just kind of asked their opinions and their thoughts on, you know, what's going on and kind of how they felt about it. A lot of them felt like there was a lot of emphasis put on these properties that had those trails going through them, where kind of, if they bought that piece of property, they would have to incur all those extra expenses of building those trails out. And they want to try to find a more fair way to kind of spread that cost among everybody. I know one of the things we talked about was if, you know, one little subdivision builds a trail and it's supposed to connect to other parts of the trail or Bryant Parkway Trail, you know, why should the cost of that trail be, I guess, passed along to the homeowners in that subdivision where it's a public trail that's used by the entirety of the city? Residents or non-residents can go running or jogging on that trail. So that's where we kind of had that conversation, and based on a lot of those talks that we had, we decided that we're going to actually revisit the plan and kind of look at redesigning portions of that plan to come up with a better solution for the sources of funding on the bike and pedestrian facilities. The Planning Commission did ask if we could bring this topic of revision before the commission at next meeting, which is in July, as an action item, so we can kind of formally decide on the direction we want to pursue as far as the additional studies or changes that we need to make to the plan. I think that's it. But we got any specific questions on that or comments?
So that was the meeting that, Amanda, last Monday, I think?
Yes,
Yeah, so
last Monday.
that was the meeting. It was really late, but I sent all you an invite kind of right before, once I realized kind of how this was, what was going on, and as Parks gets more involved with the trail system and everything in that. Currently, you know, we have the design going on for the connector to Mills Trail, where the trail goes through Alcoa right now and kind of dead ends. You know, we'll have an option where that turns off, goes over to Mills Park, and then also connects back to Parkway whenever the Parkway opens, hopefully this summer. And then also, we're currently designing north of the interstate, the part of the trail that would go through Midland Park and kind of go connect, what's that school there? Spring Hill, or no? Parkway Elementary, yeah. So kind of Parkway Elementary and connect there as well. So those are trails that are currently under design as well right now that does affect our park system also, so.
Where's the 8 miles of trails at right now, Phil? Without me going up there and trying to figure out.
Yeah, so, a lot of those, you see the kind of darker pink lines down here in the parks.
Yes.
Those are all existing trails. And then anything that's blue is new since the, since this plan was implemented in 2017. So there's a few little small sections of trails that were built out by developers here and there. But the is Bryant Parkway, going all the way down, a little bit here in the heart of Bryant. And then, also, I believe part of that's including the Alcoa Road Trail. I know that was kind of a joint partnership between us and the county and Benton. But, that's also, I think, included in that a little bit.
And one thing we really want to do is like, you have 8 miles and your thoughts were, where's that?
Yeah.
Is to work on connectivity, because right now you have, and it was brought up at that planning workshop where they were called orphan trails, which is a pretty good name for it. But like, we've got a lot of these little built out segments, but you can't really use that segment because you're just gonna be going back and forth. And so to figure out, I think that's part of like looking at this and adjusting and finding funding sources for it is, how do we build this thing out where it makes sense and is actually connecting? And I think a lot of that revolves around Parkway, because we're gonna have a road there with a very, you know,
It's just a little
long,
scary going over that overpass. If
We're
you
working on
connect-
that too. We actually have
Okay,
a grant
like
out
doing
right
some
now for the
widening?
design
Oh,
of
yeah,
a
intersect,
multi-use trail over the intersect.
Okay.
So it'll be a
Is that-
dedicated, protected, like, lane, I guess. over
I mean,
there.
there's some brave people that do it, but I'm not one of them.
Yeah.
Like, I got about halfway one day and I'm like, nope, I'm
So
not.
does this all fall under the parks budget of maintaining and keeping up?
So, anything that's not gonna be along a street. So like the Bryant Parkway, that trail, that's street. So, currently, if it's in a park, it's parks. If it's along a street,
It's
it's streets. We don't have any greenways currently that doesn't fall into one of those criteria. So moving forward, as trails are built that are greenways, those will be parks, yes. So that would be the one thing that would change there as far as, which the ones that are being designed right now, which go through a park for at least partial of it, you know, that, when that comes, we're working on grants for that. When that comes up, I mean, that's gonna be going to city council and getting the general fund to give us those matching funds. It won't hit our operations budget until these trails start needing repairs and updates, yeah. Then, at that point, we would have to, you know, look at how that affects our operations. And that's one of the things that discussing as far as the, you know, maybe other ways to provide, to fund this, is maybe there's a, you know, things like that we actually put a funding mechanism in place, that wouldn't just be a developer building it on the front end, but also like, we have some funding mechanisms in place that can also help to, you know, maintain these trails after they're built. And so,
Yeah, that was gonna be my question. Who's gonna share in the cost? You mentioned the not putting it all in subdivisions to,
And I think-
do the initial investment, but obviously there's trailing costs.
yeah, I think that's what I heard from the developers there, and I don't, like, but there are some, if you are currently building out a development that has a trail to it, you're eating all of that cost.
Maintenance.
And they're saying, we would like to, let's balance
Spread
this
that.
out a little bit, you know, because everyone is going to use it, not just the people in our development.
Especially if it connects.
And I think that's a big problem too. You got developers building, they're saying, I'm spending $100,000 on a trail system that doesn't connect to anything, and before you ever get it connected, this thing's gonna have to be repaired, you know, so.
How many miles is it totally projected that we have forecasted for, you know?
Good question. Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head. I'll have to look it up.
Question. So I know that there's a really big plan, and I know that there was a lot of contention about it, and it's the trail that goes from Placer County to Garland County. Does that go through Bryant, or is that north of?
It doesn't. So it's actually on the very bottom of this map, of that orange line. That's the Southwest Trail.
Okay.
So it'll go, it follows the Rock Island Railroad,
Okay.
the old Rock Island Railroad, I should say.
Okay.
Goes down that berm, and then we actually have a grant that we're working on right now. We got funding for it, for the design of that trail, what it would look like to go from Bryant Parkway, continue south, and actually intersect there.
Okay, because that was gonna be my next question, if any of ours would want to connect
So
up.
that would be our main connection. There's also the possibility of doing the connection through Alexander.
Okay.
I know, I think they have like a little trail spur that's gonna come off of that through Alexander. And so we could also look into connecting to that kind of close to Alcoa Park.
Gotcha. Okay.
So,
Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, good job.
But, yeah, just wanted to let y'all know about that and let y'all know that's gonna kind of be coming down the pipe soon as far as looking at this and kind of getting a better plan together for it, on how we can implement this a little bit better.
All right, who's got any comments, committee comments for we?
I got a question. Just knew it was coming in.
Comment.
Comment. Comment.
Let's talk about the
The
difference between
didn't
comment
it-
and question.
And what's her name? The grant lady,
Rebecca?
Rebecca. Did I just vision, didn't she say that she overcame a grant that talked about the sidewalks or something in the lights?
We'll
On the
apply
sidewalk.
for it.
That was that
We
meeting.
applied
that-
for it.
Yes,
Do we
that
know
was
where we're
that
at on
meeting you
that?
missed
It'll
when
be-
we
So
nominated.
it'll be the end of the year before we know.
End of the year?
Mhm.
Oh,
But
okay.
we have submitted our application for it.
Yeah. They were all submitted, week before last.
See, Richard, that was a good comment question.
You raised it just like.
You were absent from the meeting, we discussed it.
No, it was last meeting, wasn't it?
Yeah, you were here.
It was last meeting, but they didn't say what it was, did they? I just thought she said she overcame it and.
Yeah, community development department's been present here a lot, so Rebecca's been a couple of times, now we got Colton in here, so.
I was like giving you a hard time.
And what's the source of the grant? Remind me again, who we applied to?
That's through RDOT. Yeah, it's a federal, transportation alternative program, that's what it is.
We've got the lighting grant and then both of the trail grants that are out.
Is there gonna be lighting on the trail? Grants, isn't any of that, it's all,
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah, I think originally it's just for trail. I wanna say in those costs, they do the conduit underneath the trails and stuff for the lighting to do like as an additional
As
piece down the
additional.
road, as needed.
hey, do we rent this garden space out here?
Probably too late for you to get you a plot for this.
I have a garden, I was just wondering, I've seen people
Yeah,
out there a while ago going
They
through
were
it, so I
early,
was like.
or last meeting, whenever we left, yeah.
Yeah.
Still letting people spend it.
That's what I was wondering, that's what I'd be fired up about.
Laying the flag.
Like a little squirrel, still must have made it.
All right, yeah, no other comments. We have a motion to adjourn.
I make motion to adjourn.
Second.
We are